everyone, this is Empowering Homeschool Conversations. We want families to come here to gain insightful strategies that empower them to successfully teach diverse learners at home. I'm your host, Peggy Ployer, the founder and CEO of SPED Homeschool. Our goal in these powerful weekly conversations is that they will boost your confidence to cultivate the best at-home learning environment for your student. For more resources, go to spedhomeschool.com. Today, we are going to learn how to use good books to create great unit studies for the holidays with special guest Cheryl Swope from Cheryl Swope Consulting and author of Simply Classical. Welcome, Cheryl, and thanks for rejoining us on the broadcast.
Thank you, Peggy. It is wonderful to be here. And just for the record, it's Cheryl Swope, rhymes with rope.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I always get that wrong too. Gotta remember that. Yeah, thank you. And thanks for being back with us. Want to thank the listeners and viewers that are already popping on. If you're listening on the podcast, just know that we do this broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube. And you can always join us. You can check out our upcoming schedule of broadcasts. And this podcast is always produced a couple days after. Or not a couple days, couple weeks after our normal regular broadcast. So yeah, definitely want to check those out and all of the things on our YouTube channel that like 900 videos, I think we have there right now. But we are approaching the holiday season, and if you're listening to the podcast, we're already there. But we wanted to just encourage you this month with learning how to do some more interactive types of studies with your kids instead of maybe just the normal, kind of mix things up, but not mix things up in a way that is going to cause more stress in your life. We just want you to have more joy and more fun in this holiday season while you're home educating. And so Cheryl, I'm super excited to be talking about how to turn good books into all-in-one holiday unit studies with you. So why don't you kick us off and just give us a little bit of information about you, your family, and maybe some holiday homeschooling traditions that you have.
Our family is my husband and myself. We've been married more than 30 years, but 26 years been attempting to have children, but none had come our way. We were praying. I felt like Hannah, just Lord, please grant me a child. And I promise with your help to have that child or children serve you. And those were long years initially, but the Lord granted our prayer, and we were given through adoption twins, a boy and a girl. Their names are Michael and Michelle. They are now 27 years old. But when they came to us as babies, they had a lot of special needs. I have a master's degree in special ed. I've always been drawn to children who struggle in one way or another. So it was, we felt truly a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
They both have autism. They both have speech or language difficulties, processing, learning disabilities, and then they both have mental illness. Their biological mother had schizophrenia. They both developed that themselves as early kind of preteen for my daughter, and then early teen for my son. But the good thing was that we knew to look for this. So we found top specialists to treat early and well. And we still have access to very good care for both of them. But what we could not find, I was interested in classical Christian education. It was going to become a movement. What I could not find was a school that would accept children given their challenges, which was understandable. And I'd always kind of hoped that I could homeschool anyway. I had some friends homeschooling. So this was my ticket to be able to just homeschool them.
Yeah.
Really. So we homeschooled from the beginning, and we said we would just take it 1 year at a time.
That's good.
thriving,
Mhm.
and that 1 year turned into their entire education from toddlerhood when they came to us all the way through their graduation.
Wow.
So that's kind of our background, and
Yeah.
um,
I
that
love that 1 year at a time. That's such a
yes,
good philosophy. What a homeschool.
someone yes, someone recommended it to me. It was also very
Mm.
helpful for extended family who
Mm.
expressed concern.
Right.
What if they don't have friends? You know, the kind of thing
Mhm.
people are concerned about. But of course, we hooked up with good homeschooling families. They
Right.
did have friends, so did we,
Mhm.
and it was helpful to be able to say, we're just going to take this 1 year at a time. If anything is ever better for them, we will choose that. It
Yeah.
kind of took that
Mhm.
pressure off.
Right.
So that whole story is told in Simply Classical
Mhm. Wonderful book.
education for
Mhm.
any child. Simply Classical, a beautiful education for any child. And from that came a Simply Classical curriculum,
Mhm.
which includes a lot of read-alouds. Today we're talking about books and read-alouds.
Yeah. Yes.
So our holiday tradition you asked about.
Yeah.
We um, we knew a family that took off every December.
Hmm.
They did not homeschool during December because there's so many parties and caroling opportunities,
Right.
baking opportunities, just so much that you can do. And then also children
Mhm.
also need more sleep, at least our children.
Yes. Mhm.
Stuff. So I found though with my children, I could never just take off home
Mhm.
and not have a schedule, not have a routine. That didn't work.
Yes. Yep.
So books came to the rescue.
Ah.
I didn't always want more glitter and glue and craft projects.
Exactly. Extra stuff, yes.
That's right. Although we did some of that, but what we started doing, we gathered a lot of books about Advent or Christmas. We
Mm.
kept them in a bin. Then every year when we brought out our Advent wreath, then at the same
Mhm.
time we would bring out our various books. So that bin grew
Ah.
over time,
Oh, I'm
but
sure. Yeah.
it became our holiday tradition to just sit on the sofa and the read those books.
Mm.
So, my
Yeah.
daughter, I brought some for show and tell. My daughter
Absolutely.
at 27 still has favorites. She says,
Mm.
"I want you to share some of these." So,
Oh.
this was her childhood favorite.
Ah, Away in the Manger. And who's
Right.
that written by?
It is retold by Debbie McKinnon, it says.
Hmm.
Um, and what it is, it's the play of Luke 2.
Oh,
So
okay.
with children,
Mhm.
I was actually running our children's children's program, if you will, but we
Mhm.
that it was just the traditional Luke 2. Every year, the children in
Yeah.
our congregation had that as um, an evening message for.
Mm.
So my daughter was very familiar with that. It tells the story, but then
Oh,
it features children playing the different roles.
right. So I'm sure that brings back memories of those events too, not just of the book. So that's kinda neat how that ties all in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I was kind of surprised when she said, "This is one of my favorites," but you're probably
Mm.
right. It was
Mm.
because she remembered looking and looking and hoping that maybe
Right.
she would be tapped to play Mary in
Oh.
all of those things. And my son was the narrator. He was very proud of that when he was
Hmm.
well enough to be able to read the
Hmm.
from Luke 2. There's another one called A Tree for Christmas. This was
Ah.
another favorite of hers. So, what we talked about in setting up our podcast today, you and I,
Mhm.
was how do you create a unit study from
Right.
a book? So it's more than just reading a book, but how do we make this
Exactly.
educational
Mhm.
well beyond that? So I
Yeah,
pulled
because most people think of just, like, literature arts, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're reading," and
right,
that's it.
right, and
Mhm.
we are, and in a sense, that's enough. If we're
Right.
bringing words and words of truth, words
Mm.
of beauty, words of comfort, hope to our children, then that is it is
Yeah.
certainly enough.
Mhm.
If you're taking off a week or 2 weeks in December, you want it to have maybe some more educational impact. So
Right.
here's an
Mhm.
example of one that that we actually include in Simply Classical.
Hmm.
It is called Saint Nicholas: The
Hmm.
Real Story of the Christmas Legend.
Ah.
This is by Julie Stegemeyer. I love her books.
Hmm.
Not only is this countercultural, we because
Mm.
we are not just saying as Christians, no Santa Claus. We're not doing that. We're giving them the truth
Right.
about Saint Nicholas.
Hmm.
Okay, so yes, we have literature, words.
Mhm.
Yes, we have art. This particular book has wonderful art. Let me find an
Yeah, it
example.
looked like that from the front cover.
Right. So that's Saint
Oh, that's
Nicholas,
beautiful.
but
Mhm.
truly was tells the story of the man who was a pastor, Saint Nicholas,
Hmm.
and how children would flock around him because his words were filled with God's love for
Mhm.
them, whether they were poor or lame
Hmm.
or or anything. He loved the children. You think of Mark 10:14, Jesus calling all children to himself. Let the children come to me. Well, St.
Right.
Nicholas was like that. So he's telling
Hmm.
about the gospel of Jesus Christ to these children.
Hmm.
There was a family in the story. It tells about a little boy. So this is the one that the children
Hmm.
will identify with. Is the little boy comes to St. Nicholas. His family, he's concerned about his family. His family has a problem
Hmm.
financial. It involves his three sisters.
Hmm.
Let's see if I can.
Yep. Mhm.
Um, so he pleads with St. Nicholas to help his family. The story goes on to tell how St. Nicholas prays for help from
Mm.
to help and serve all the people in his care, but
Hmm.
it's in particular this little boy's family. So
Neat.
the story goes on to share how, because of the love of Christ in St. Nicholas, flowed
Mm.
through him to the family, that family was served, and it sets the
Hmm.
for why we give gifts to each other because of the gift of forgiveness, salvation that we've been given in Christ.
Hmm.
From that, we are enabled and inspired, if you will,
Right.
to, to give to others. So it's a charming story.
Mm. Mhm.
We can incorporate geography because
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
the back they talk about where he lived. So he was in an area on the Mediterranean Sea across from Greece in
Hmm.
modern day Turkey. It was in Asia Minor.
Okay.
So what we often did is we had a globe next.
Mm. Mhm.
I preferred that over the flat map.
Right. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
first, and we first always said, "Where are we?" So
Ah, yes.
turn and
Mhm.
are. In our case, we're in Missouri in the middle of
Mhm.
the United States. All right, now let's see if we can find Greece. And then we could find across from Greece, there's the Mediterranean Sea. There's
Mhm.
this was called something different back in that day.
Mm.
It was Asia Minor. That is where St. Nicholas lived. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so geography, history,
Mhm.
Christian
Right.
studies,
Mhm.
then comfort as well.
Right.
All in a book that has literature and art
Mhm.
and again the truth to help combat all of the commercialism
Right. Exactly.
and kind of antichrist focus
Mhm.
to Santa Claus. Now you can merge the two in a safe and
Right. Yeah,
comforting
and you're
way.
you're equipping your children to understand everything, not just taking out because it just doesn't agree with, you know, we don't agree with the mainline view of Santa Claus, but yes, but giving them more instead of taking away and making it less.
Exactly, right. And we don't have to do make believe either. We don't have
Mhm.
to pretend that Santa Claus exists.
Right.
If we don't want to do that, we can sidestep that whole thing. So
Mhm.
I love that book. Another
Yeah.
is called Christmas Day in the Morning. We include this as
Hmm.
no, it's by Pearl S. Buck. So
Oh, yes.
that one,
Mhm.
The Good Earth, she received a Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize. What I love about these books that we chose is the language. It's so
Ah,
different
yes.
than
Hmm.
what how we speak
Right.
casually.
Mhm.
I read something that was very persuasive to me early on that in our own conversations we use X amount of words, let's say
Mhm.
5,000. But when we read, we're expanding that so much more.
Yes. Mhm.
So vocabulary, not just vocabulary,
Mhm.
though, it's just the way things are said. Let's see if
Yeah.
I can find something. So here, this is about a boy, by the way. He's 15.
Hmm.
So picture books are not just for little kids.
Yes, that's a good point.
So at 2:45, he got up and put on his clothes. He crept downstairs, careful of the creaky boards, and let himself out. The big star hung lower over the barn roof, a reddish gold. The cows looked at him, sleepy and surprised.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
love the other thing, this too is motivated by love.
Hmm.
He says that he overheard one morning his father talking to his mother. They lived on a farm,
Mhm.
and his father said, Mary, I hate to call Rob in the mornings. He's growing so fast and he needs his sleep. If you could see how he sleeps when I go in to wake him up, I wish I could manage alone. And mother, being very sensible, she says, well, you can't have him. His mother's voice was brisk. Besides, he isn't a child anymore. It's time he took his turn. Yes, his father said slowly, but I sure do hate to wake him.
Hmm.
And the little boy says, or the young boy
Yeah.
says, young man says, when he heard these words, something in him woke. His father loved him. He had
Hmm.
thought of it before, taking for granted the tie of their blood. And it says too,
Hmm.
neither his father nor his mother talked about loving their children. They had no time for such things. There was always so much to do on a so now that he knows, it says, now that he
Mhm.
knew his father loved him, there would be no more loitering in the mornings and having to be called again. He got
Hmm.
up after that, stumbling with sleep, pulled on his clothes, his eyes tight shut, but he got up. In classical
Yeah.
education circles, we call that moral imagination.
Mm.
The most powerful thing about good books. We're creating,
Right.
we're forming the child through the character lessons that are learned
Mhm.
within the stories.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
So you feel like you're not teaching,
Mhm.
not doing our math lessons maybe that week or 2 or month of December,
Mhm. Right.
but we are. And then the gathering around, having a
Right.
place to read
Mhm.
is just our sofa. But
Right.
um, but but even today, if my husband pulls out some of the books, even from our curriculum, like these picture books,
Right. Mhm.
of course, he's got an eager
Audience there.
right there.
Oh,
Right
yeah.
there. And I usually do too. I'm
Mhm.
right into to listen as well. So
Right. Yeah, there's something
introduction.
captivating about, just really good stories and good books that just draw you in and you want to be part of the story. You want to imagine and like you said, you picture books doesn't matter the age. We
Right,
can all enjoy them.
that's
Yeah.
right. And then
Mhm.
introducing them to great authors, but
Mhm.
through simple stories. So another example of that is another one that we have in our curriculum. We include these every December in
Uh-huh.
different levels all the way up. So this one is Papa Panoff's Special Day.
Hmm.
So guess who the author of this long-standing tale is?
I have no idea.
Tolstoy.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
So Anna Karenina, right? Or
Yeah.
Papa Panoff.
It's much smaller.
Right. It's thin. It's accessible. This
Mhm.
one, this is my favorite. When I first read it, it brought me to tears. And I was reading it with
Mm.
Michelle, my daughter, and she and I both were looking at each other. We're just, oh my goodness, it's
Oh.
so touching.
Hmm.
This one similarly is about giving, but
Hmm.
this is a widower who is feeling lonely.
Hmm.
He has this sense that Jesus is coming Christmas Day. He
Hmm.
looks for Jesus. It was almost as if in a dream, he was thinking that Jesus himself would be coming Christmas Day.
Hmm.
And as he went through his day, he was looking for Jesus. Here's a street
Frozen.
sweeper who was cold.
Hmm.
He said, I'm looking for Jesus. And then
Mm.
he says, but that poor man looks so thin and hungry and cold. So he invites him
Hmm.
in for coffee and tells him of the
Hmm.
Christ child who who came on Christmas morning.
Mm.
One by one, people who were in need come by. He had made a pair of shoes. He was a shoemaker, this
Mm.
man.
Mhm.
He had said, if I had been the wise man, I would have brought this
Mm.
shoes. This is the best I ever made. But he
Hmm.
knew now, of course, that Jesus was a man. He was the king and
Yeah.
God himself. He had no need of these shoes. But then a mother brings her child
Hmm.
down the street, and Papa Panoff invites the mother and the child in. She
Hmm.
says, I have no money. She was embarrassed because the baby had no shoes, and here it is winter.
Mm.
So, of course, you know what happens.
Right.
And so on until at the end, he says, I still had hoped for Jesus, but I had a blessed Christmas day. And
Hmm.
as if in a vision, all of the faces of people that he had seen
Hmm.
throughout the day pass through. And then there is the verse, whatsoever you have done to the least of these, you have done to me. I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me water. I was cold and you took me in.
Mm,
These people you have helped today. It was as if he was hearing this all the time. You were helping them, you were helping me. And he says, I shall remember that now whenever I read the
mm,
Christmas story. So,
yeah.
um,
Huh, that's really neat. Yeah,
yes,
just those powerful, just truths, but told in a way that it's relational and, it kinda it takes you through that journey with that person instead of just reading the scripture verse, and then even just being able to turn around and bless others and to teach your children. We have these opportunities around us all the time instead of just this person in the book. And that's, I mean, people focus on it so much during the Christmas season anyways, and there's so many opportunities to be able to serve and give. And it just puts your heart in the right place, when you read stories like that. So,
yes, so
yeah.
true. Right. So, how easy is it then from there to help your child with special needs to think beyond himself? Hey,
Mm-hmm.
okay, who do we know that's hungry or thirsty or cold or in need or lonely?
Mhm. Right.
You don't have to look far. I mean,
No.
in our neighborhood, it's just right on our street. We have a lot of elderly people. So
Mm.
children like ours, like my twins, they both have autism. So
Mhm.
sometimes that empathy or thinking from someone else's perspective, that's difficult to do. They call it theory
Right.
of mind in the autism
Mhm.
literature. But really, we're just talking about old-fashioned compassion, empathy.
Right. Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
stories can help our children with special needs to think outside of themselves, if you
Mhm.
will, and to think of another person's life from that person's perspective.
Right. Yeah. That's a great, yeah. So good because we get so stuck in the mode of, well, it's all about us, and it's easy to fall into that because, we're so focused on caring for our kids and everything in our home, and it becomes overwhelming. We almost have to have seasons like this that interrupt us and tell us, remind us it's more than that, and our focus even with our children needs to be towards these things and giving and helping, and it is possible. It just might not be as elaborate as, maybe we did when we were single. So, but the ability to just move beyond the commercialized traditions of the season and using these books to cultivate really that versus just, we'll pass through, we'll read a couple books on the couch. It's not just about reading the books.
Right, and
Mm.
choosing the good books that are
Mm.
going to have that kind of impact, and then just slowing
Right.
down too. We found for my daughter especially that the whole Christmas season was so overstimulating. Part of
Yes.
the sensory overload. We found that we couldn't decorate too early.
Mhm.
Have their trees up already, and it's not even Thanksgiving,
I
but
know. Yeah.
we we didn't want to do that. I mean, because
Mhm.
we lean more liturgical, so we tend to have Advent first, and but
Yes.
even so, when we had things up too early, it just was too much for her. She was waking up
Mm.
too early, she was discombobulated.
Mm.
We had to go to um, much more like several decades ago when people would put up their tree Christmas Eve or sometimes
Right.
21st or 22nd or something like that.
Mhm.
We found
Yeah.
that the slowing down during December was really important for her to maintain just her kind of mental equilibrium, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
So
and
books help to do
yeah.
that. You have to just
Mhm.
and dive
Right.
into the pages. And so, a
Mhm.
couple of tips.
Yeah.
One I mentioned already was to have a globe handy for checking things
Yeah.
like Papa Panov. Well, so Tolstoy
Mhm.
was a Russian author. So the man who wrote this book was from Russia. We can
Mhm.
we can find out where that is, maybe learn a little bit about Russia or about
Mhm.
other books that he has written in our house.
Mhm.
Go downstairs and see if we could find on our shelves a couple of those very thick books that he wrote.
Right.
And um, and then another tip that was helpful for me with my son
Hmm.
was if he was kind of reluctant to sit and read. Never
Yeah.
had this problem with my daughter, but
Mm.
if to listen to a story, then I would say, well, we're going to read two. So choose this or this first. Which one would you like to read first?
Oh, yes.
It's
Mhm.
so simple, but it made such a difference. Oh, I
Mm.
want this one. So,
Yep.
okay, so
Mhm.
and so we have a whole host of things in our bin. This one,
Mm.
classic.
Yes, Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's not just the program that's on television. And what's nice about this one
Hmm.
is you don't have any commercials.
Yep.
But
So true.
you still get,
Or the songs that get stuck in your head. My daughter came home, she works retail, and she's like, "Oh, that one Charlie Brown Christmas song, it's stuck in my head." Uh,
that's right. So you still have that priceless scene.
mm,
Can anybody tell me what Christmas is all about? And then
yeah.
Linus, alone now on the stage, says, "Lights, please."
Mhm.
And then he spoke, and there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And
Yeah.
lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I
Mm,
bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord.
yeah.
And
So good.
what we have done is to tie that with the Bible so that they understand this is my grandma's Bible.
Oh, wow.
Um, it was the King James, just like they have in Charlie Brown. Marked
Mhm.
it every year, my grandma did. She
Oh.
had a family Bible that she displayed with
Mhm.
Seta behind it always, and then it was
Oh.
always open to Luke 2.
Mm,
But we can say we can say, here it is. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior,
mm,
Christ the Lord.
yeah. Yep.
So again, linking the books
Mm,
beyond
mhm. Absolutely.
what we're just reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then art. You mentioned the language arts,
Right.
but here's one, The Christmas Story, and
Hmm.
it from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. There is so much
Oh.
sacred art around Christmas.
Mm, yes. Mhm.
So I won't read from this one, but I'll just show you. This is, and it came to pass in those days. So let me see, there we
Yeah.
go.
Yep. I can see it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then in the back, they have where all of these
Oh, where
artists,
they're
yes.
displayed and
Right. So who
hmm.
the artists are, there some are from the Netherlands, some from
Okay.
Italy. So you can look up the artists, what else have they done? Often if they've created sacred art for Christmas, they have
Hmm.
sacred art for other times in the church year. It's a
Oh,
great time
okay.
to go over the whole the whole church year with
Mm, mhm.
Easter and Ascension and just remembering that this is all part of the salvation story.
Right. Yep.
Incarnation is where it
Mhm.
starts, but we're
Yeah,
going
this
further.
holiday. time, Christmas time is just a snippet of the larger offerings of the books that, speak into truth, the artwork that speaks into truth. There's all these things that we can constantly be using throughout the year, really. Yeah, that's a great point. Very cool. I love that. And so yeah, it just seems like it just this type of learning just really anchors what's most important, in some very impactful ways that you don't really even have to, as a parent, plan for,
Right,
other than getting the books.
yeah, right, and having them available in a bin or
Yeah.
whatever, you can do something more artistic than I did. It could be a lovely basket. It could be, something like that, but just having them all in
Mhm.
one place and pulling them out every year, that for us, that's what made them very
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, the guest I had on last week, we were talking about Advent, and she had talked about different books and, numbering them each year and or something, and then, pulling out numbers from the Advent calendar and then picking a book from the bin as a way to tie that in. So
yeah, that's nice.
there's just lots of different ways to incorporate that or to focus on one or maybe one book and make it even longer. Sometimes we did one book for an entire week,
Yeah,
read the same story. How impactful that is. I
right.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that, repetition, especially
Yes,
for our
yeah,
students with those types of
yes.
things?
We do that in Simply Classical too. We read, especially in the early years in our
Mm.
readiness levels, we will read the same book over and over. We do that in our
Mm,
manners programs too, myself and others. We read
yeah.
the same book, but every day we're doing a little bit, we're doing something a little different with it. We might
Mm,
find
mhm,
motor things like point to the butterfly on the page where we're
mhm.
kind of working on observational skills, but then also
Right.
isolating that finger, which is kind of a pre-writing skill,
Mm, mhm.
the ones. But then later you can do things with the art when
Oh,
they're
yeah.
nicely illustrated. So let's look at the art a little more closely this time. This way,
Yeah.
looking for the details that we might have missed. So
Mm,
we talked
mhm.
about Papa Panov, the Tolstoy one. This is a great book for that because the like you have this little cat. He has a cat, and it
Oh.
appears in different pages. There's the cat again.
Mm, mhm.
His bed. There it is.
Yeah.
So I just like
Right. Yeah, so
that.
it makes sure that they're paying attention at least.
Right. And then another thing that we do in the Simply Classical curriculum but you can do with any children's book is to have them replicate one of the scenes. And again, like with
Mm,
my son, he has to have some choices. So
right.
choose your favorite scene in the whole book, and then you give him good colored pencils and a good sketch pad.
Mhm,
Recreate this scene, draw this scene, or it could be watercolors. Some
mhm.
children, like our children with autism, sometimes they want it to be exactly the same.
Oh,
If
yes.
frustrated,
Mhm.
tracing paper can help. So just
That's a great idea.
trace this
Mhm,
with a pencil, but in incorporating that art with,
mhm.
with the books too,
Yeah.
that attention to detail,
Oh,
kind of
absolutely.
minding the book for all of its treasures.
Yes, really, that is, it's what you're doing, and it makes the story much more memorable, the more experiences you add to it, and, I think sometimes we're like, "Well, we read that book, let's move on to the next one," and or, we have to go back to the library because we don't have enough to make it through. And we think quantity is over quality, and just that importance of repeating and really immersing into that, or if they made some sort of recipe in the book, find the recipe and make it, and even if you've never tried it, just try it. See how it turns out.
We did that with the snow in there's a Little House Christmas book.
Yes. Mhm.
They made maple
Yep. Yeah,
candy.
maple candies, but in
Right,
the snow.
right.
Uh-huh.
Sure. So, of course, when you have the pristine snow, you can do that. And
Uh-huh.
and so, I will say too that, of course, none of these ideas are mine or original to me. When I was first looking into homeschooling, I found this book that was so inspiring to me. It was mentioned
Huh.
in the Read Aloud Handbook, and I thought, well, I just need to get a copy of this myself. It's
Hmm.
Kushla and her books. You can still
Hmm.
find old copies of it. It's from the well, this little girl was homeschooled starting in 1971, I believe, or she was maybe
Wow.
born in 71. And
Hmm.
actually she might not have been homeschooled, but they took a book centered approach to
Hmm.
her early development. So they may not have called it homeschooling,
Right. Yeah.
but that's exactly what they were doing.
Hmm.
So that's the little girl. She was born with a host of global, what we would call now global developmental delays,
Hmm.
fine motor, gross motor, cognitive, vision,
Right.
just all kinds of
Hmm.
challenges. And her parents used a book centered approach to
Hmm.
her therapy. It was sort of like book therapy,
Right.
even helping her learn how to turn a page.
Oh,
We do
yeah.
that in our curriculum too. We start with board books because, of course,
Hmm.
it's much easier to grasp, but
Right.
like book skills,
Mhm.
spending time with the cover too. That's another thing that they did that
Hmm.
we do also. So um, here's another Christmas book. So this
Mhm.
is called The Very First Christmas. So we
Mhm.
talk about what do you think this is going to be about?
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Or looking, and of course that's cursive. So if they don't read cursive, we can
Mm.
also look
Mhm.
at the picture. What do you think this is going to be about? Who
Hmm.
do you see in the picture? And then
Right.
talking about who's the author, who's the
Hmm.
illustrator, what's the difference between those
Oh,
two.
yeah. Mhm.
They did such things with little Kushla.
Hmm.
Her intelligence grew in a way that the doctors didn't expect. Her vocabulary was higher than doctors expected.
Hmm.
It was as a person with a special ed background, kind of steeped in all of the therapies that you can access,
Right.
occupational
Mhm.
language. I really had never heard of book therapy, but
Right.
it appealed to me so much that
Hmm.
very influential in helping
Yeah.
me understand that if we're reading good books and
Mhm.
enjoying that time together, it is therapeutic.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be driving to a
Right.
or this or that. We can accomplish a lot just on our own. And again,
Hmm.
require glitter and glue and cleanup and
Right.
accomplish quite a bit just by reading, getting
Right.
back
Yeah.
to old fashioned just reading with our children.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, making that reading interactive, that back and forth, and that's something that we also lose because again, we're just trying to get through things, at such a quick pace that we forget about you yeah, we are reading a story, but there's so much more involved in storytelling and being immersing into that story. And yeah, it can be a powerful learning tool, learning experience and create memories like you started talking about at the very beginning. Your daughter's still loving those books that's impactful for their lives when we put in the effort to make that a meaningful part of our traditions, I guess, is really that. Um, yeah. So yeah, you shared a lot of really good books, and so do you have any resources to share with our listeners? if they wanna start doing these and maybe they haven't made the list that you of the books that you shared and, or how did you okay, I'm gonna go back myself up on this. How did you come about to start picking books? Were some of them, like, family favorites, or off of other book lists, or how did you kinda start your collection if a family was gonna wanna do that?
That's a very good question. I honestly don't remember.
Oh,
We we just seemed to acquire some. Maybe they were
Mm,
given to us. I know we had some favorite publishers, so I would look for
yeah.
books through the publishers that I felt like I
Hmm.
trusted. Now, some of these have come to us through Memoria Press,
Mm,
which is
mhm.
a publisher that I trust, and
Yeah.
um, they have they have a stellar person
Hmm.
choosing children's books. It's
Oh,
Lee
wow.
Lowe. She's the daughter-in-law of the founder of Memoria Press.
Hmm.
She is just really adept at choosing books that are beautifully illustrated,
Hmm.
well told stories that that we can trust. So that has
Yeah.
those have been wonderful additions
Hmm.
to what we amassed. Just
Right.
I guess accidentally. I really don't
Right.
try to set plan. It's just
Mhm.
that we did. But yes, a resource. So
Yeah.
anyone can email me. I have compiled an entire list from ages little bitty or abilities that are young all the way up through high school because of course
Mm.
many of the great writers wrote for the Christmas
Right.
season or the Christmas message. I think of Dickens' A Christmas Carol. That's
Mm,
my
mhm.
son. He reads that every
Hmm.
year just
Wow.
because that's his tradition.
Tradition, yeah. That's
Yeah. And
neat.
one of his best friends now has a master's in library science.
Mm.
And this friend says he believes that A Christmas Carol is the best story in terms of
Hmm.
beginning, middle,
Ah.
and
Uh-huh.
ever written. That
Huh.
for him, that's the ultimate story. Anyway, so this list, I did share the link with you, but I'm
Mhm. Yes, and
really
I'll put it in
not
the YouTube description as well as the podcast description. So
right.
that'll be
And I
there.
think all, if not, I think most, if not all, of those are available through Memoria Press. There are
Mm.
hyperlinks in
In
that,
there. Okay.
but you can also email me, listeners,
Mhm.
Cheryl
Yep.
Swope at memoriapress.com. And
Okay, I'll
it's
make
not
sure to share that.
memorial, it's
Yep.
memoria.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
will happily send that list along. It is by age or ability.
Mm, mhm.
We have a whole list of picture books for Christmas. And then
That's awesome.
I should also mention that we include read alouds throughout the year in other subjects. They're
Mm.
sure.
Yeah.
I grabbed a few. I have just found that for my kids, at least, it's been really helpful to supplement things like math with read alouds. So we actually
Ah,
have
that's a
arithmetic
great
read aloud
idea. Huh.
for each level
Hmm.
as we study different things. This book for right now, How Many Seeds?
And a pumpkin. Yeah.
This one, this one is great for currently, as is this one.
Mhm.
Now, by the
Oh.
time you're
Mhm.
this
I
airs,
think I remember reading that.
Thanksgiving, but this is great. Again, history. We're talking about the first Thanksgiving Day for this
Mhm.
in America, but it's also a counting story
Yeah.
and wonderfully illustrated. Again,
Hmm.
just warm
Oh,
colors
yeah. It's
of fall,
beautiful.
which you can talk about the colors of fall versus spring.
Mhm.
When we talk about doubles, we have two of everything.
Uh,
that idea that we're not just adding one to something, but we're actually doubling. So
Yes.
it's just again, a great way to firm up the concepts. We have one on place
Oh, place
value,
value. Wow.
money,
Mhm.
and also too for our kids with say dysgraphia or attention difficulties where they're
Mhm.
just tired of those worksheets
Right.
or even the hands-on things or the games.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
what we've done is we've plugged in the read alouds to where the skills were just taught, and then you kind of
Mm.
step back and have that
Yeah.
sink in a little bit.
Mhm.
This one I just found. One of the ones we had gone out of print, so I needed to find a new.
Oh,
It's amazing how hard it is to find a
yeah.
well illustrated book for numbers 1 to 100. But I found this
Hmm.
one. I love it. It's 100
Uh,
bucks.
oh.
It's also a counting book.
Hmm.
So that's in there. Um, so so anyway, I had talked
Yeah.
about the the curriculum. We have a magazine.
Oh, yes.
Classical,
Mhm. The Simply
anyone can
Classical Journal.
subscribe. It's
Mhm.
free. We have articles. We have all of our all of our things that we offer.
Mhm.
That comes. It's like a magazine and a catalog. It
Oh, okay.
just comes out
Mhm. Yeah.
annually. But you can subscribe at simplyclassical.com, which is on the screen.
Mhm.
And then each level has a planner that gives you the lesson plans. And
Mhm.
again, Jesus drawing all children to himself. It is a Christian program. We have
Mhm.
charter versions though, but we include everything that we talked about
Very cool. Yep.
with daily lesson plans for all subjects with our read
Yeah. Mhm.
aloud. And then some of the language to use when introducing the books.
Yeah, that's helpful too, just to make sure you have that smooth transition into new subjects and and so the student knows what to be aware of as they're getting started, and you as a parent do too.
Right.
That's always good to go in knowing what the goals are or um, just the the standards of what we're going to talk about and instead of just going in and say well we just got to get these worksheets done there's a larger purpose than just
Right.
getting it done.
Yes, much larger. And so what people have said is they really appreciate that it's not quite scripting, but there
Mhm.
there is a lot of verbiage that's included so that you know how to introduce the book,
Mm.
what questions you can ask if you have time
Yeah,
to
exactly.
point out. So that's those are included too, so that people say, I'm learning how to teach my child as I go
Yes.
through.
Mhm. That's yeah, so important because many of us, unlike you, we're not trained to be teachers. And so I think I found that to be the hardest thing for homeschooling for me because I wasn't trained to be a teacher. I was trained to be an engineer, and I could talk to engineers all day, but not my kids. And I had no idea how to teach them the concepts. And so it's helpful to have those resources for people like me, especially.
Well, we did have is with an engineering background is an idea of how to have processes that were
Yes, processes were good at our house.
effective. So that's you were halfway there.
Yes, exactly. Well, thanks so much, Cheryl. This was it just warmed my heart to hear the tidbits of stories that you read to me. And so even though we didn't have any questions from our audience tonight, there's a few people popping in and out. But yeah, this has been great, and I know that, those who will watch later, if you're just popping on now, this hour conversation has been a blessing. Cheryl's been talking about using, good books to, to create great all-in-one unit studies, and also just encourage us as teachers just to be more engaged with our students. I think that those are my big takeaways from today. As yes, we can do so much with so little, and we just have to be purposeful about doing that, and taking advantage of those good things that are resources that we can dive into there. And it doesn't have to cost a lot either. It's
No,
just
it doesn't.
yeah.
And,
Mhm.
just this just occurred to me too, to the mom who is weary
Mm,
or suffering from her own health issues. This happens
yes.
a lot with our homeschoolers. It happened to me too, where
Mm,
autoimmune things started taking over, and I think we're just
mm,
so very tired because we're
yeah.
doing so much. This is good news for us too, that we can
Yeah.
sit on the sofa and listen to our children,
Mm,
read to them, and talk about books. It's very low energy.
mhm.
So those are
Yeah, and very therapeutic to ourselves too,
that's
which we
right.
need that.
Yes,
Mhm.
that is true.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. This has been a blessing to have this hour with you to discuss this, and for all of you that have been joining us, just watching in the wings, we appreciate you. Just know that this broadcast was sponsored by viewers like you. To make a tax-deductible donation to SPED Homeschool, you can visit our website at spedhomeschool.com. And next week, we are still talking about unit studies. Can you believe it? 5 weeks in a row, we've been talking about unit studies, and we still have more to talk about. I have Connor Boyack on next week. He is the author of the Tuttle Twins, and he's going to be talking about how to create unit studies out of current events and historic events, and to bring kind of those into the fold of our discussions in our homes around these holiday type of traditions. But there is so much history, and I know, Cheryl, you talked a little bit about that just through your books, but those history and current events, what is happening now during our holiday seasons that we can um, kind of bring into that conversation with our children, and not just exclude current events or history because we've got all these busy things that we're doing. So we're going to focus on that as our wrap up topic for our unit studies this month. So super excited about that. So thanks again, Cheryl. It's always a blessing to have you on, and you always have so much wisdom to share, and just blessings on you and your family over the holidays.
Thank you, Peggy. You too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this was Empowering Homeschool Conversations, and it was brought to you by SPED Homeschool. Definitely go to spedhomeschool.com to get resources and support for teaching your unique learner at home, and to help fund our nonprofit. Outreach to diverse learners, click on the donate button and give a one-time donation, or consider becoming a monthly supporter. And we'll see you all next week. Take care. God bless. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you here next Tuesday. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.